Hey everyone, welcome to the second session for the developer track today. This is going to be covering Angelik Laboy Torres from Dolby.io, covering Beyond Loudness, Spatial Chat, and the Future of Virtual World Communication. Really looking forward to this talk. Seems to be kind of the other side of XR. Everyone looks at how the visual implications and technology advances, but audio really helps to bring the whole immersion. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Thank you so much, actually. That's very kind. Well, I want to welcome you all today. Thank you for taking a little bit of your morning to be here with me. As I stated, I will be talking about spatial chat and also the future of gaming communication, but just a little bit before that, my name is Angelik Laboy Torres. I'm a developer advocate at Dolby Laboy Torres. Shout out to any Latinos in the house. And my background is particularly in computer science and also in film, so I find this whole world and this whole conference really amusing, just XR, AR, VR, the whole gist of it, you know? And just like, I guess, like a little bit of a fun fact, some of my favorite games are like Life is Strange, just because, I mean, the immersion in it, and then also Arkham City, Arkham Asylum. If you want to have a discussion afterwards, we can, but just this is the opinion of the day. And I guess with that, that really gets us started into the idea of like, okay, so when we really look at like virtual worlds, the metaverse, whatever you want to call it, obviously we're talking about immersion. And with that, there comes many components that have been like able to facilitate this idea, right? We have like real-timeness, we have the presence, and at its core, we're all looking for that fidelity and that realism. But I think none of them do it better than just audio, right? Like if we watch a film, you can even close your eyes, and if you hear the audio, you fully understand what's going on. But if you do it vice versa, there's a lot of guessing. In this case, you really get to the nitty-gritty and the specifics. So when we talk about spatial audio, not only, I mean, from the definition in itself, we're understanding it's the audio that's coming all around you, right? But it's specifically targeting the direction and the position in this case, right? Then what if you combine that with a type of communication format? That is how you kind of get spatial chat, right? So spatial chat, just not by me, but like by dictionaries and stuff of like people who actually created this and studied, is more about a type of online communication, and then we're talking about the implementation of spatial audio. So again, we're focusing specifically on the direction and the position, and then at the same time, how do we make it more natural and intuitive in the way that we communicate? So we wanting that face-to-face interaction, right? Again, we are trying to basically I don't think emulating is the right word, but like if we're looking at what realism is real life, unless you believe that we're on the Matrix kind of thing. But if we really look at it, that is what we're trying to aim for. And so we're really looking for those visual cues and also like how it affects the audio. Now, just to give a little bit of a special shout out to the other forms of communications, I don't think I need to like explain thoroughly what text, you kind of do it every day. The same thing with like voice chat for anybody who's using WhatsApp or like Messenger. Same thing with instant messaging. But I think also language is not the only way we can communicate. Definitely, if I throw this remote controller at this gentleman over here, he would understand what I'm trying to say to him. You know, it's all about the reactions. It's all about like how do we interact with objects, and also how the characters in these worlds actually have these expressions, right? So that's what emotes and also objects interaction come into play here. But before we look into the future, I think we kind of have to look at the past and like really understand what is the trajectory that has gotten us here. So from that, we started in 1989 in its Habitat. This is Lucasfilm's one of the first games that they did, and they really hone in on the idea of like what spatial audio could be, right? So we're talking about, oh, we have a virtual world, we have players that interact with each other, we're using the real time, and then the tech at its time, again, it's a very conceptual idea of it, which is if you walk into a room, a sound effect will play. If another player walks into a room, a different one would play. And then the same thing, I could go on and you guys can shout out what you would imagine would happen, which is just another sound effect will play whenever you're close to the person, you enter a new world, and really like starts allowing other creatives to really look at the idea of like, okay, how can we use audio as not just the tool that gives us the information or just to like be an additive thing, but more of like its whole holistic thing, right? Now, if we flash forward to the Palace in 1995, we're looking more at an actual technology happening here. So cyberspace chatting audio protocol is looking at, okay, I know where position is. I kind of understand how people understand audio. We're just going to do like a sort of filtering and then like throw the audio over there, which is like the radius where we kind of think where it's happening. Still, better than the last one, right? We're evolving from here. But then in EverQuest in 1999, massively multiplayer online role-playing community comes into play, and then we're really getting good at like having a little bit more of data point, right? So we're having positional tracking, and then now we're actually doing a audio filtering through a 3D audio environment. So still there, but it isn't until Second Life in 2003 that we're really allowing these avatars, these buildings and objects to really be as precise as possible, just because we start introducing an algorithm into this place. And so 3D voice is kind of the technologies going around. We're getting better data, and then at the same time, we're stopping the audio filtering in this case. Now, I think this is pretty self-explanatory when in 2016 you have VR and the headsets before that kind of like get introduced. VR chat became one of the first ones that kind of did very well the positional tracking, obviously because of the equipment that comes into play. But then also we're talking about, okay, we combine the algorithm. VisiSonics is also now doing a special effects on it. So we're doing like occlusion, emission, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, if we look at Spatial, I don't know why many people have come up to me and actually referenced this, which is really cool, just doing the research from this. In 2019, we're in this mixed reality platform, right? We're basically almost at a peak. We're just trying to make it better, trying to make it more high quality. So they introduced machine learning into it. And again, we're trying to upgrade on the sound property. So we have slowly come off of like, oh, it's just spatial audio to now, how do we look at the way that the players communicate with each other, not only in the games, but like the NPCs in general, but just like within each other, like just people from different locations trying to get across the message. And it isn't until 2021 that Dolby Laboratories actually decides to dive into this field. And then they've been doing it for years, honestly, with the history that they have with Atmos and Vision. So they take all those experiences and now package it to you as Dolby I/O, which is an API platform for developers to utilize. And the great thing is that we're not talking about, okay, any audio processing or hardware that is necessary aside from that. This is an API call, and then we're delivering you what we studied for many years. So the high quality portion, and then also the scalability. And so actually, we do have a booth, and we're showing a lot of things in terms of our plugins, but we have two. One of them being real-time streaming. So we're doing low latency. So 500 millisecond being the max you would get in different regions and different CDNs, and we're hosting all of that. And then at the same time, we're also doing a spatial chat. So real-time communication, all spatialized. And again, you can think of all different many use cases. You can think of like a live concert where you really want to feel the vibrancy of the person yelling behind you or maybe throwing up in a virtual world. Still how to figure out how to do that. Or in this case, like how does this sound in this room? How do you bring this intimacy into the virtual world? But I think with all that, I kind of asked you the question of like, is spatial chat better? I like give you the history. Many of you may be like, I don't know if I really want to do that. Too much work or something like that. But if we really look at like what is the benefits and what is it actually providing, I think these are pretty convincing one in my opinion. The first one being the effective teamwork, right? So we're having better communication because it feels more natural. There's less distraction and less of a delay. If we look back at even during the pandemic, I don't know if any of you use like Among Us or something like that. I remember trying to text somebody, be like, it's not me, I'm not the imposter, and then getting kicked out. Well, imagine a scenario like that where you kind of get to like basically yell it out and be like, no, it's not me. You can kind of defend yourself better. That's just like a kind of goes into the second one of like social connection, and they're all intertwined in itself because it's more natural and intuitive. People want to stay in the platform longer. They want to engage more. They want to like build those communities even better, and even like trying to take them into another platform or outside. It's just how do you retain people, isn't it? At the end of the day, and then lastly, we also have the improvement of strategy. So the same way that I could speak very loud, I could also speak very low, and then to have those conversations that are more like private, that are more secure, whether it be for like a business scenario where you're trying to do like a board meeting or something like that, or simply, I don't know, I'm just trying to kill the other guy over there, then I don't want the other guy over there to actually know what I'm talking about, or you want to feel that like presence around you. But I think technology at its core, is at its best when we include everybody, right? So not only do we get benefits in general, but if we talk about accessibility, we have users who are visually impaired. And a lot of their experience kind of looks like the door is opening and there's a descriptor of it, right? What if the wonders of it, right? What if there was the possibility of then hearing the door opening from the left? Imagine it's like a horror film. It's like, you know, it really makes it feel like everybody's included into the ideation of your play or just your experience overall. So getting more sound cues and then allowing them to like locate it in general. But at the same time, language barriers also happen. And this is a little bit of like, you need to integrate something better, but it's just like thinking through the ideas of this. Different users are going to be from all types of world. Myself, I'm not Puerto Rico, speak Spanish, speak other languages. Wouldn't it be cool to kind of like tap into that community and like really speak with them while having, I don't know, like an auto translation on the background as the spatial chat is happening? Then everybody can just, it's kind of like a commentator in a news report where you're watching like a Mexico like newscaster kind of like talk about their things in the world, and then somebody in English kind of like translating at the same time. It's just all these different possibilities that kind of open up with these type of technologies. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about like how people in general have used our plugins and like give you some ideas in general, right? In this case, actually, these two examples have used both of our capabilities. And so in this case is the metaverse. And what we're looking at here is kind of more of a business perspective of like people want to do conferences, they want to do expos in this environment. And so we're looking at the characters, obviously having that spatial chat to really convey the idea of what it is to have an audience. And then at the same time, you have the streaming being on the screens. So you can see like people joining in from different types of the world, having having presentations done. But then also, if you notice the robots and the characters in itself, they're using the webcam and matching it as a material into their faces. Just a different way of how do you basically do characters in this environment, right? But then also we have Odyssey, and this is simple. If you want to check out the booth, we also have it in there for you guys to play around. They do it in an interesting way because instead of, okay, this is just like a trade show or a conference, you actually get to use their platform and build whatever 3D object you would like. So McDonald's did their executive briefing the other day here, and they like build these models. I think it was like a Blender or something like that, and they exported it into the experience. And so they were really able to customize these environments. And again, as you can see, the real-time streaming is happening from the screens as the presenters are going, and then the spatial chat happening with the individuals around, right? Ideas. So if we really look at it, I think it wouldn't be fair to kind of come into this conference and not do anything. So we partnered up with PudNub, and then we just decided, that's a terrible picture of me, but like it did work. So this is basically like an interactive streaming environment. When we kind of look at like different platforms and how they convey their streamers, or even like YouTube, Twitch, or everything, it's very isolated. The audience is particularly like joining, but then they're joining from a chat experience, right? Well, what if you could have these conversations in like the virtual world and kind of hop in from stream to stream and then talk to the people around you and like kind of say, hey, what do you think about this? Well, in this case, we're using the streaming both from my webcam into the experience, and then at the same time, people joining from different sites. I only have a limited amount of time. That's why I'm not running a live demo. But definitely, if you want to check it out, the QR code allows you to essentially like scan into the experience, and you can become a streamer yourself, which is really nice. And then we use PudNub in order to, again, we're talking about like how do we become inclusive to everybody. Not everybody wants to talk. People just want to be like a bystander into the experience. So just having emojis and then also like chat experience integrated with it as an alternative. And then secondly, the presence. So not only how many people are in the experience already, as the like the timer can tell you at the top, but then at the same time in the actual TV, so portals, you can see like a person on the top. So whenever you get really close to it, it detects who is watching the stream, which would be a good indicator for like, let's say the streamer who's trying to be like, how many people are actually coming in and out of my experience. And I mean, and the spatial chat being the characters in there, and then just kind of like walking around and then hearing the conversations and how it changes, both in direction and position. But I think, I mean, let's be honest, we love watching people. So I actually took this screenshot from me live streaming this through our plugin. So not only are you able to stream something into the experience, any type of video as a material or a prefab, but you're actually able to stream out the entire experience. People who might not want to watch in a VR headset. And so you're allowed to actually have over 10K concurrent viewers on the external live stream. And so that's basically how this is happening. But definitely check it out. Or if, yeah? Yeah, it's based on the conversations that the individuals are having. In this case, just for not having multiple people join in the experience, we just set it up in a like pre-configured conversation, and so the characters are emitting this type of audio, and and you can walk away, and then I don't hear them anymore. But then if I walk closer, it feels louder. And the same thing, if you have headphones that allow you to kind of like navigate that experience, then it makes it for a cooler one. Okay, so also developer track. So I actually am just going to explain how easy it is to integrate. So actually, we made them really easy to like use in the sense of this is both low code to almost like API reference. So your choice if you want to do a C# or if you want to do Visage scripting for the spatial chat. And in this case, it's very easy actually. And this is just demonstrating how do you set up like this like pre-configured audio. It's actually even easier if you just want to do a multiplayer experience. So I'm just going to walk you through this, and then I can like show you very easily how to do the other one in a real life scenario, right? So we just start on, make it concurrent, and then we initialize the experience. After that, obviously, it's not the safest way to do the get token. My data exhibit right here, but just for the sake of this presentation, you can kind of put your key and your secret available there. Otherwise, you get a token from our dashboard, and then you're able to put it in, but you have to change it every 12 hours. So I was just like, I don't want to change it every 12 hours. Therefore, that is why it's like that. And then at the same time, you just kind of connect it to a conference. And so the conference is going to our CDNs, detecting how many people are there. And then if it's a multiplayer experience, it's already giving us the position and the direction in that case. So that's how we do the processing. So if you just want to do a normal multiplayer experience, let's say you have integrated like game server hosting, you have integrated like Photon or something like that, you do just basically like the top, where it stops where it says demo conference. And that's it. This is done in 5 minutes, and it's very easy, right? Now, if we want to fully integrate like characters that are not moving and we don't know their position, then we're kind of getting their information, their names, kind of randomly name them Dan, Ruth, and JC. But then at the same time, we're now mapping. We're now doing, okay, well, I want this character to be rotated this way in this position, right? Or I want them to be over there because I want people to understand how the audio is decreasing, how the audio is increasing. And I also don't want my character to walk through the other characters. Therefore, that's why I created capsules for them. But yes, if you guys have any questions of any sort of things, I am the person you go talk to, and then I can help you with this if you're trying to integrate this, definitely. Yes?
So how does this differ from... Hi, John Hanchik, Nano, XR Interaction Design. Super cool stuff. Audio is important. How does this differ from other spatialization solutions? Like, I think in MRTK even they have one. Oculus has one. Lots of people have these. Like, what's the difference here with this?
What's the sellout, basically?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. That's the question, and then I do have one more question about how this relates to like interface audio, like that kind of fake haptics. But those are my two questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think I can answer the first one. So in the first one, actually, again, it's like utilizing the experience of what we have. So this is powered by Dolby Atmos, essentially. which only Dolby can do. But then we're also talking about scalability. And so like that's kind of like where the focus is when we talk about like compared to other ones. Everybody doing their own thing. So much you could provide at a certain point. And it's also very easy to integrate when we're talking about the plugins. So like, again, I just show you an experience that I can set it up in 5 minutes. Even the streaming one, you just kind of provide all the information and you can get started. I could even do it if I had my laptop. I could just even show you right now and it would just be really easy. So I think if I were to say like top 3 that come to mind, that would be it. And then also I guess like how easily it integrates between the different plugins. So let's say that you wanted to do, I don't know, like you wanted to live stream even something bigger, then you can just like do communications through that and then like kind of like face them through together. Your second question, I can answer offline. Okay. So, right, past, present, future. So when we talk about maybe the whole reason why you came here to start off, we're talking about the future of spatial chat. And I just kind of listed some ideas of where this could go. And when we talk about innovation, we're talking more specifically of like, okay, let's say that we have 3D characters. What is the idea of basically matching whatever they're saying to the characteristics that the characters have? So let's say that you create like, I don't know, like a big boss, and their feature is that their haptics or the audio that they create kind of attacks other individual. Again, it doesn't have to be this usability thing where you're just kind of like limiting yourself and not really pushing the characters to integrate these characteristics in themselves, but just how do you go even further and like make it into the gameplay experience, right? But this is like very like, this is gaming, this is more of like characters and animation. Okay, what if we do like, again, let's say that the experience is more of like a haptic feedback, and then you compound the idea of the characters are now attacking you through like the spatial chat and radiation that they have, because again, you're doing position and direction. Take that information and then you're attacking another individual through the haptics of that. But even if we were to look at another situation where it's more of like augmented reality, right? We always have wanted to do holograms. We always want to have that like perfect experience that the Marvels movie or like even any like sci-fi movie has provided you. Well, what if you were able to basically like be in a conference room with some people and then the other ones are online, but then you're able to detect the presence of the room and just kind of do spatial chat through that, where the people that are not actually there, you actually hear the sound from where they're coming from in the conference room in itself. Again, it's just like, it's all open to the imagination and what you can actually make with it. But that's just like a little bit of it. So if you want to chat more, the GitHub right there is actually directing you to the demo that I just showed you. If you want to check it out, it's going to be at the booth at Dolby, at the back. And then Dolby I/O is essentially our documentation. You can get started very easily. We give you 50 gigabytes to start out for free. And then if it's the communications one, then it's just minutes. So just gigabytes, minutes, whatever. And then this is just my information. If you want to get in contact, grab coffee, I don't know. And then the Dolby I/O channel is also something that I produce, and I try to make like developer content where you guys can have more information about, I don't know, people learn in different ways. Not only white papers, and then you're like, personally, I like watching a video. So there's a couple of videos already up there if you want to get started with like the plugins or any sort of thing. Let's say you wanted to do a multi-view of sorts. We actually did a release the other day of our version 2 of the streaming plugin. And the cool thing is that you're able to set up virtual cameras and they just kind of have like a perspective, sort of like a, I don't know, like a broadcasting manager, and then select through the different cameras. So imagine like a reality TV show, but on the virtual world. I don't know. You can create whatever. The other thing being we released around 5.1. And so that's streaming. We also have a demo of that. That's actually in our layer pad. I just think it's interesting stuff. But that's all that I have right now. I don't know if you guys have any question. I know some of you have asked question. If not, then if you catch me around and if you have anything else, you can just stop me. Not doing anything. So thank you so much for listening, and thank you for your time, honestly.